Welcome to Canadian Running Magazine's continuing coverage of the Olympic track and field competition. I'm Mihira Lakshman along with Michael Doyle. And Michael, let's get started with some of the Canadian notes from this morning. All three middle distance runners in action got through past the heats and advanced to the semifinals. Jeff Harris in the men's 8, Nicole Sifuentes and Hilary Stellingwerff in the women's 15. What are your thoughts on how they performed this morning?
Well, first of all, I got to say that Jeff Harris was really quite impressive. He continues to run PBs seemingly every time he goes out and runs. First 400, I thought he was in trouble. I thought that he was perhaps overrunning it, and that he might get outclassed in the last lap. He was surrounded by some serious talent. And then he made a great move. Coming out into the final stretch, he positioned himself really well and ran a great race.
One of the things I think that we've learned about Harris is his patience this year. 5 personal bests this season, which is unheard of. A lot of it is due to his patience over the final 200 meters. He doesn't panic when people go by him. He saves enough for the final stretch, and today he had enough to hold off 2004 Olympic champion Yuri Borzakovsky of Russia. So quite an impressive run by Halifax's Jeff Harris. I also liked what Hilary Stellingwerff did in the women's 15. It was a tactical heat, but she kept herself in position, free of trouble the whole way. Nicole Sifuentes ran a bit more passively towards the back of her section in the heat. Really had a lot of work to do in the final 200 meters. She managed to advance based on time, but, maybe not the most aggressive run from her.
No, she was sort of hanging onto the back of the lead pack until the last lap, and in the bell lap she knew that she had to make a move and stick with them, and she did well to do that. Luckily, it was a fast enough heat that she got sort of dragged through, but it remains to be seen how well she does in the next heat.
Also this morning, we had 3 Canadian women's hurdlers also advancing through the heats. Jessica Zelinka, Felicia George, and Nikita Holder. They all made it through. Zelinka, competing just a couple of days after the heptathlon, shook out the kinks, finished second in her heat, looked pretty good. What did you think of this morning?
Yeah, I was really impressed by both George and Zelenka. I thought they both ran really well and could easily find themselves into the final. Holder looked a little bit shaky, and she's going to need another run for sure to iron the kinks out.
Last night was a bit of a tough break for Canadian middle distance runner Nathan Brennan. He fell in the 1500 semifinal with about 600 meters to go, and he was in perfect position, running a tactically great race, probably in the best shape of his life. Really unfortunate incident there. Michael, what did you think of what happened?
Oh, it's too bad because I thought for sure just before he went down that he was going to the final. And I mean, this happens when you run in the tight pack, in the middle of the pack. It's both the best and the worst place to be. And it looked like he caught the back of someone's foot in front of him and then kind of backed off instinctively. And then when he backed off, I think it was, from what I'm hearing, Nick Willis, who used to train with in Michigan, clipped him, and down he went. He made a great effort to try to catch up with the pack afterwards, but he basically, he spent it trying to catch up. So it's really too bad for him.
Yeah, and Athletics Canada did protest that, hoping that Nate Brennan would be allowed into the final. That didn't go anywhere. That appeal was denied, and it really is a heartbreaking situation for Brennan, who's had a terrific year, and hopefully he can get past this and maybe look ahead to next year's World Championships. We should recap the men's 10,000, which was probably one of the most exciting races of the weekend. Mo Farah of Great Britain beating Galen Rupp of the United States in the final lap, shutting out the Bikilis from gold and silver, and shutting out the Kenyans from the podium, and Cam Levins of Canada finishing 11th. What an impressive race from him.
Yeah, very rarely do you see 2 runners from 2 different nations seemingly almost working together throughout the race. They were drawing confidence from each other, having trained with each other for the last couple of years now. And I am just so impressed by both Rupp and Farah. Farah's kick in the last lap was extraordinary, and Rupp really held on. I thought he was going to fall off, and then he just kept going. It was so impressive. I think that was a huge moment in the Olympics. I think it really captured the imagination of the layperson watching, not necessarily the running fan. I think that's a really big deal for track and field.
It's really nice to see a North American like Galen Rupp right up there on the podium, and to see a Great Britain athlete win that event. And Cam Levins was with them for 24 of 25 laps. That's a lot to cheer for Canadian fans. And he was saying post-race that he kept expecting to be dropped at some point, but it just never happened until the final 400. So that bodes well for his future. I really look forward to watching these guys in the 5,000 later this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, Levins is the pleasant surprise. Well, I mean, he's not a surprise for us, I guess, because we've been watching him for a while. But I think he's a pleasant surprise for Athletics Canada, and there's a lot more to come out of him in 4 years.
One of the teams that's been a bit of a disappointment so far has been Team Kenya. Only one gold medal in the men's steeplechase, and it's still pretty good, but nowhere near what they were expecting heading into these games. What do you think of that? Only one victory so far from the Kenyans.
Well, I thought for sure in the women's marathon on Sunday that we were going to see something spectacular. The Kenyan team, they were running so well together. They seemed to have a plan. They were staying out of trouble in the lead pack, and they made Kiplagat made that great move at 25K, and then it just sort of started to unravel for them. And that seems to be the way things have gone for this entire Olympics for the Kenyan track and field team.
Don't count them out just yet, though. David Rudisha coming up in the men's 800 meters, perhaps one of the most dominating athletes of these Olympics. And in the men's 15, we will definitely hear from the Kenyans there, too. So finally, to some of our favorite moments of the Olympic track and field competition so far, I would say for me, Usain Bolt winning the 100 meters yesterday, even though he was one of the favorites, it still lived up to the billing for me, and he was electrifying to watch. His bravado before and after, and 9.63. Wow, that is flying out there, and it really was a spectacle. Also, the men's 10,000, Mo Farah's kick over the final 400 meters, and Galen Rupp overtaking the Bikilis was something special to watch, along with Canadian Cam Levins. How about you?
I was really impressed by Dibaba's 10,000 meter run. Her last 500 or 600 meters in that run was just dominant, showing that she is perhaps one of the greatest long distance track runners in the history of the sport. Levins, of course, I think that you can't underplay that 11th place. I think that's a huge thing for Canada. I was also impressed by the 100 meters. I have to admit, I find the 100 meters usually a little bit of an overhyped spectacle, a bit of a dog and pony show, but this time around, just seeing all those massive personalities on the start line, super talented deep field, probably the greatest 100 meters ever run, and to see Bolt, live up to all of that pressure was really impressive.
Well, thanks for watching our continuing coverage of the Olympic track and field competition. We will be back on Friday with another video. Until then, keep following our coverage on Facebook, Twitter at Canadian Running, and on our website at runningmagazine.ca. For Michael Doyle, I'm Mihira Lakshman.